Welcome, this is your life now, a wasteland where we all take a vow.
Hi there, my name is Mallory, and I have multiple sclerosis, and I depend on a power wheelchair. We share what our family's experience is like dealing with a chronic illness. And today I have my husband with me, Brad,
Hi.
and we're going to talk about my MS diagnosis. I first wanted to just kind of talk through our first episode that's out there and kind of what our first week was like. So we put our first episode out, and then MS'd, and we felt that very quickly. I don't know. This wasn't our plan. That's what I'm attempting to say. Is it was never the plan to quickly jump into just an audio only, and
We want really most of our content to be video and audio. So, but like Mallory had mentioned, MS is you wake up with a different body every day. So it's this day was Mallory doesn't feel like getting dressed. So
no, this day was Mallory didn't feel like Mallorying.
Okay. So today is an audio only episode.
So I think it's something we do really well. We kind of have a common word in our house, and that is
pivoting or pivot.
Yeah. So, well, you can quote that TV show if you know, you know. But that is something we do very commonly in our everyday life. But I won't lie by saying it this way, but it is disappointing. It's disappointing to me because my personality, I feel like I'm so quickly failing at what I wanted this to become. But I think this is really what I did want the podcast, or She's a Hazard to Herself, to really become, because I wanted to be real, and that's something that I haven't done a really good job at in the past. Especially when I was in a work environment, I didn't do a good job at all in being real, and I did a really good job on putting on a show. I looked at every day as a stage, and how was I going to make other people feel comfortable with a wheelchair and around me and my disability. And I never really accepted the fact that I'm the one that is disabled, and why can't I just be me? And so we're working on that. I'm working really hard on that, and just being honest with what I'm feeling and what's really happening. So
I really think we've both become really good at putting on the show, I guess.
Yeah.
Just to kind of not let everybody see what's really going on at home or mentally or what have you. So
there's so many animated movies I want to sing right now. But anyway, so in the end, there is a win-win to this scenario and this adjustment to this week's episode, and that is, I hope you find that we're a lot more comfortable, because we're not managing a video and audio at the same time. If you watch the first episode, we were not comfortable at all. This is not our everyday thing, and what we're
working on it though.
What we know. So yeah, we're getting there. But I do know, first and foremost, I want to be real, and I want to be raw. So I'm just, I guess, happy we had the opportunity. Unfortunately, we went around it just in our second episode, but in the end, so I will move on. Today we were talking about my diagnosis, which we talked a lot today, and building up to recording for this episode on prior to Brad, and because this is prior to Brad. There's not a lot of honestly my life that wasn't without Brad, when you think about it now. I never did the math, because I don't do math well. But
so if you were diagnosed at 17,
I know, I'm like, I've been with
I
you
met
longer.
you when you were 18.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a year really without me in the picture. So I mean, we've seen
How-
I've seen a lot.
Yeah, how ironic.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've been with you longer than I was without you.
Oh. Oh wow. We're to that point already.
Oops.
Didn't realize that. Okay.
But no, I honestly, it's a really good point because I mean that was really one of my eye openers to really push me forward in making She's a Hazard to Herself happen, because I was realizing I was getting further from 17, and a 17-year-old would no longer be able to relate with what my diagnosis experience was like, and what growing old and older. We're not old yet.
We're not old.
Growing older,
I'm not ready
but
to
growing
claim it.
older with you has been like.
I'm not ready to claim old yet.
So
Sorry.
but anyway, so that was a lot of the trajectory to get me to take the leap and decide to put ourselves out there and share our stories, because I realized I was getting further away. I'm terrible at math, and so I didn't realize like I'd been with you the longest of them. But anyway, so I was diagnosed at 17 years old with multiple sclerosis. I was a senior in high school. And yeah, I mean, it was quite the journey, and honestly, the journey to get to this episode and the context of this episode was even a bigger journey and adventure. But a little bit of background: I'm the oldest of three. I have a younger sister and a baby brother, and we were raised by a single mother, and the easiest way to say that is we were well below poverty level. And to be honest, it didn't change anything. It's something that's actually hilarious to us as adults, and it's something like me and my brother giggled the most about, like the things we did to entertain ourselves as children. And I don't know, we just thought it was normal being poor, and that was that, and the things that we ate and the life that we lived. But honestly, it was good. And I mean, in all reality, I wouldn't change my upbringing, because it would change who I am today. And I learned a lot, I gained a lot, and it made me a really strong individual to be able to manage what we do today. But family medical history for me, I don't really have a relationship with my father. Never have. I have a subtle knowledge of his medical history, but I know that my grandmother possibly had lupus, and I had a grandfather that I understood had Parkinson's. But other than that, I don't know. I don't really have much of my father's family history. And then on my mother's side, there's diabetes, blood pressure issues, gastrointestinal issues, thyroid issues, and a history of cancer in my family too. So it's a little bit more sprinkled, but at the end of the day, I think it's just because maybe I know it versus I don't. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's either here nor there, or maybe not even relevant to my diagnosis, but maybe it was. I don't know if we'll ever know. But anyways, I told you that I did a ton of prep to prepare for this episode, and that meant, spending quite a bit of time on the phone with relatives and family members, and just to kind of gather things. But I did discover, and I knew this. I knew I was accident prone, and I compared myself a little bit to my siblings. Like, they really didn't have a lot of accidents, nowhere near the amount that I did. But yeah, when I talked to my mom, there was just a lot more signs of accident prone type.
So, I mean, like, she's a hazard to herself. Like, Mallory is essentially a hazard. Like, this woman, it almost seems like she would find ways to injure herself. But I don't know.
Like I
It
was
was
seeking them.
she was seeking them. Like if there was something that nobody else could possibly figure out a way, like, oh, this is completely safe, it's childproof, like a baby wouldn't injure themselves. Mallory could figure out how. Like she would walk past it, something would happen. Like,
like
I think you even
magnet.
told me, like, what'd you do? Like you got your finger stuck in a door. You chopped your finger off with a knife.
I am missing the pointer to my left finger.
Like, didn't you injure yourself with a pumpkin, carving a pumpkin or something?
Yeah, in 7th grade, I decided to chop off my left
And that was before your diagnosis.
pinky
That
finger,
was like,
carving a pumpkin. Yes.
yeah. So,
But I was like, getting past, I guess, like the really, like, I guess, I don't know. I played hard. I don't know how else to describe it. I just played hard. I was an outdoor kid. I played hard.
you were kid in the 90s. Like that's what we did.
I mean, I grew up on farmland in the pastures. Like I have plenty of scars. I can tell you a story about every single one of them. And the good part about that is I have a very I take pictures of things, and so the good part is about like my scar memories is I see like the car I was sitting in and the image that I was looking at, and anyways, all of the goodness of those memories. But
photographic memory.
That word.
Yeah, it's kind of weird sometimes. It's weirdly interesting. I ask her where something's at that I haven't seen for a few days, and she knows. She can just like see the picture in her head. Like it's been sitting on the bar for the last 3 days where you left it. And I'm like, oh, great, thank you. So,
under the hat, under the
paper,
next to the sunglasses. No, I'm like all of it. But yeah. So I mean, I was an accident prone kiddo, preteen, teenager, and then I was very active though. So I was part of the marching band and part of, what else did I do? I worked 3 jobs. One of those was cleaning, one of them was a waitress, and one of them was retail. And when I say 3 jobs, I mean like all at the same time. Like I liked a challenge. I also liked money. When I was a teenager, I was mentally prepared. Like, as soon as I can get out of here, I'm going to get out of here. So like I would work and lay away things, and I like furnished my house before I was
like, I remember you telling me you had a storage unit.
Yeah.
Like that you started like stocking up at what, 15, 16? Like,
yeah, as soon as I
you
had
bought
a job.
furniture and tables and chairs and like plates. Like when 18 came around, or 17 or what have
Yeah,
you, like
I'm a planner.
you were
like,
ready to go.
Which goes to show this whole podcast thing and me being flexible about that is like really a struggle. But I'm a planner. I think about the future, and like I know how things want to work. I want to work and blah blah blah. And well, MS isn't that. So it's hard some days, but we adjust, we pivot. But I do remember falling a lot as a waitress. I don't remember ever like falling.
Did you ever have like 5 glasses in your hand, or like like the waitresses hold them up high, and then like drop them all and throw them all?
I did normal people things, and I did I did walk on 2 feet, and at the same time I did hold a waitress tray. And all the cups and stuff, no. What I do remember though was a giant plate of nachos that I dumped on top of the entire register at one point. And so I did waitressing, mind you, as a teenager, at a like 24-hour diner. And 24 hours said diner would get busy on the weekends. So me loving my cash, I would work late night so I could be there when the bar got out. So it was a bar night when I dumped or somebody's nachos all over the register. So, but I don't know. I just like fast-paced environments. I like to move. I like to be on my feet. And I was a hard worker, and I always have been. And I don't know if the work-related falls led to, or it's just the way I was made, but I did start having some pretty severe like hip and back pain. And what that in turn, some of my biggest memories were walking from my high school to the school parking lot, and like halfway there, like I wouldn't even get like a quarter of the way, honestly, like, but at least halfway there, like everything in my like hips and legs and everything would be tingling and numb. But I always described it as feeling like I was walking like a duck. And one of the things actually my mom said was, like when I was in the marching band, like they always knew they could find me on the field out of, all these kids, because there's Mallory. I look like Frankenstein. Felt like a duck, but looked like Frankenstein with the way that I walked. And I guess I didn't realize I was doing it. It was just compensating for where my body was not.
I can't remember who told us. Somebody said you look like a sober drunk. Maybe that's how they relate the MS walk, maybe, is a sober drunk.
Yeah.
Like you haven't had any alcohol, but it looks like it.
Yeah.
Just the way the feet drop and the foot drop. And
I don't know. I just feel like I just flapped on. Like they were attached, but they had no control whatsoever. but that was, yeah. So I was, 15, 16. None of it was really leading up to at the point, but, and like a lot of like that time frame too, I just remember like I'd get off one of any of these long periods of jobs, and then I would go home, and I didn't take pills. I couldn't stomach or swallow pills until my diagnosis, really. And so I would go home and I'd run like a really hot bath, and then I'd slug some liquid hydrocodone and soak in the hot bathtub until I felt like I could go to sleep. And which is, I don't know, terrible when you think about it.
I know, it's kind of counterproductive when you think of MS. Like,
right.
Usually, like when we first moved into this house, we used to have a hot tub. And we got rid of said hot tub because when we'd get in it, you would be a noodle getting out.
Like
so,
mess,
like it's okay. You want hot water to help your muscles relax, but then it would physically drain you just because of the heat. So it was,
I know. Which is odd. I don't know. You don't know what you don't know, I guess. But I don't know. I remember like falling asleep in that bathtub. Like it's just the only way I could get like pain relief. But once my mother realized like this isn't just a strained muscle, this is something that's consistent, we've got to go check this out. That in turn led to definitely a lot longer road. But talking to my mom about her experience, I realized she is my current age when we were going through this experience. So I think I can say at this point, I've worked through all the emotions. I don't think I'm going to cry at any point in any of these episodes, because I shed a lot through all of this. But it's really hard to think about, when putting yourself in that perspective, it's really hard to think about my daughter going through what I went through, but also trying to keep my cool mentally. Especially when my mom said some of the things that she said to me. Some of the words she used were, first, let me start with, she started with, Mallory, I thought you were going to die. I had no idea what we were doing and what was happening. But the words she used were like scared and afraid. And mind you, my mom's a powerhouse, and I remember being mad at my mom at some points throughout my life because she taught me to be such a strong person. I remember being mad at her for teaching me my work ethic because like I'm a hard worker and I was like overworked in a job. And the only way I could process that was my mom made me this way and taught me this. But anyways, I'm telling you this to say, mind you, my mom is a powerhouse. She is the strongest person and woman I've ever met. And so to hear her say that she was overwhelmed by this is, I think, crazy in itself. It surprised me. But my mom, she used those words as overwhelmed. And, she's taking care of her oldest child while she has 2 other small children at home, and doing that as a single mom. So I can't imagine, but she described things like I just kind of went into autopilot, like it really was a blur, and she had no idea what she was doing, and I can't imagine it either. But I do remember asking questions from people like, well, how do I trust this doctor? What do I know about, like, what do we know about this? What do I do about said thing? And I do remember those pieces, but I don't know, it really broke my heart to think about the fact that if I had to do this right now with my daughter to seek a diagnosis, especially as big as this one has become anyways, I don't know. But anyways, so, I saw my PCP at the time, and PCP sent me for an MRI, and all that MRI became MRI after MRI after MRI, because, that first MRI just told a little bit of the story, but gave a sneak peek to the fact that there is more out there. So I remember going back for multiple MRIs until we saw my entire spine. I don't ever remember MRIs of my brain yet, but there was definitely a lot of attention going on with my spine, especially with my back pain. And at the time, I mentioned I was a senior in high school. So how do you manage like all of this and so much pain, and also be a senior in high school? But it worked out well. I graduated, but in the end, I did have to be a high school dropout. And the counseling advised us the best thing we could do was go ahead and drop out, because I'd missed so much school and I was failing everything because I wasn't there. I was dealing with all of this, but in the end, I did have to have a major back surgery. I spent 9 hours in a surgery to remove a disc, put a back together, because I did end up having a slip disc that was discovered during the MRIs. We had pretty lengthy surgery. I remember I went to a school that had a amazing high school football team, and I remember spending Christmas in the hospital, and I know it was Christmas because they were in the playoffs and they won the playoffs that year, the football playoffs. I missed it. I didn't get to go, and I didn't get to be a part of it, but I did get to watch it on TV from a hospital bed.
I guess let me back up a little. So I do remember you telling me, like, you were at a children's hospital, but the children's hospital, this isn't something like that is typically diagnosed with children's hospitals. So like they were talking to another hospital to try and figure out what was going on.
Yeah, so that's kind of, so my back surgery was done by one physician, and so during the back surgery, that physician was supposed to get a spinal tap. I don't know how that works, but he was apparently supposed to get a spinal tap, and that would have confirmed yay or nay, she has MS or she doesn't. And apparently this story goes, like, it just came rushing out and we couldn't get it during the surgery. And so that didn't happen. And so, but yes, I was treated at a children's hospital because I did mention we were low poverty. We were Medicaid children. And that brought us to a local children's hospital. And so you can hear our fur baby in the background. I don't think we'll ever get in an episode without her participating. But anyway, so that doctor did the surgery, didn't get the spinal tap, but he did end up having pretty much to transition me over to a neurologist within children's, and that neurologist, what I understand, again, was that this neurologist was an epilepsy specialist. And what I knew is she would call over to another adult hospital that did have an MS clinic. So she would call that clinic and just pretty much say, hey, look, I've got this kiddo. They have MS. I don't know like what to do, how to treat her, how to even examine her. And so that was kind of how my care was treated until I turned 18 and transitioned out of the children's setting. But I did have to, like, leading up to like that back surgery, I did have to end up getting admitted earlier than the surgery date, which is why I spent a little longer than we anticipated, but we did have to admit sooner because I developed optic neuritis and was complaining of vision changes in my right eye, which luckily for the most part, we've been able to correct that as an adult. I've got some like colander type vision sometimes, but otherwise so we were able to correct that, but I had to admit early, do a couple doses of steroids. I remember my mom hating it because steroids make me like super hot, like flaming on fire. I turn red, and like the best thing to do is like ice packs and crank the AC down, and that's what we did at the hospital, and she endured it in her couch pull-out chair thing that she was forced to sleep in with me. But anyways, but so kind of, I mean, once we figured out like what was going on, and things really started kind of flowing pretty quickly after, like, we've got a surgery date, optic neuritis presented itself, because I remember going to optometrist as well while being admitted for my back surgery. Like, I mean, they were doing all the things, like addressing all the things that had been presented at the time, but I just don't know. I don't know. I don't have a lot of memory, and my mom was just so overwhelmed. I think she expressed kind of the same things as we just kind of were all going with the flow, doing what the doctor said to do. And I mean, knowing that we were at a world-renowned hospital, like, we were in good hands, but I was young, and I mean,
it's like they didn't know what they were doing, but they did know what they were doing, kind of thing.
Yeah. So it just, I don't know. I don't know. It was a whirlwind as a 17-year-old. And I mean, I'd like to think because I'm the oldest, and I always felt like I was maturer than most, but dang, this was a whirlwind. But, in the end, I did end up being treated for a little while under the neurologist at this children's hospital. And the initial drug that I was started on was Avonex. And that, I don't know, I feel like I got pretty good training. I remember having a nurse come out to our house and show me on an orange how I was going to do this injection and all that, young 17-year-old. But so that's an intramuscular needle, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it's probably the length of my pointer?
I don't know, I'd say about
length of my pinky.
About an inch and a half, inch and 3/4-ish.
Either way, it's intimidating. It's the biggest needle I've ever had to inject myself, and that's what they started me with. But I had some success for many years on Avonex, and which you remember Avonex.
Yeah. I was in the picture with Avonex. Yeah.
You're like, ding, 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 my turn.
She wouldn't let me do it because she didn't think I could be still enough. But
I don't think it was being still. I just didn't trust anybody. It's a big needle.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not a registered nurse. So I get it. But no, she did let me do it after a little.
I don't even know how long when I was finally okay, you'll be my man forever. I'll give you a try.
So the first time we did it though, like she had developed a numb spot on her right hip, I guess. And she's like, okay, first time we're going to do it. Right hip, numb spot. That way if you move or you shake, I won't feel it anyway. So, and yeah, I was nervous. I'm an electronics guy, not a body. I don't fix bodies or do that. So let's.
You're not a
But
clinician.
I'm not a clinician. Yeah, there's the technical word. So anyway, but yeah, so I did the first one in the numb spot, and yeah, and that was a monthly injection, right? If I remember.
I don't remember. It's
It was like
in my
it was
notes
either
somewhere,
every
to
2
be
weeks or
honest,
monthly. I can't remember.
But yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't too frequent. Otherwise, I would have probably
Yeah.
bailed on that medication. But yeah, I mean, but I do remember I had like some like definite numb spots. Like it wasn't just tingling. Like it was like dead numb. So
Like when you get an itch, like
yeah,
you
like,
can't scratch.
oh yeah,
that
I do
itch.
remember that. Like I'd get itches there, and it'd like just piss me off because well, how do you itch a numb spot? You never got relief from it. But I don't know. So, but the good news is, like I got started on a medication, and I did graduate high school. Very different than I think most kids, but story time. I did go back to school, but I did have to go back like to an alternative type school.
Hold up.
But for two reasons.
How did you end up at this alternative school on your
So-
senior year after you dropped out and decided to go back to school, and somehow you ended up in an alternative school?
So before medical event happened, I was in my senior year like every other senior kiddo, and my school drug dogs would come to the school parking lot, and drug dog picked up on my car, and I went out there like cool as cool because I knew what I knew about my car. So my car, my grandmother had given it to me, and honestly, this car, it was a Mercury Cougar, 87, same year I was born. I remember that now. Anyways, I was given this car, but it had kind of been like a hand-me-down throughout my entire family. But anyways, it was what I drove my senior year, but the drug dog had picked up on it, and that's because it was a previous narcotics detective's vehicle. And so I understood that, it had some stuff in it at some point. So anyways, I thought I was cool describing it to the police officer, et cetera, and in the end, I had cigarettes in my console. They could have been mine. They could have been somebody else. I really don't know. But either way, it got me alternative school. And so I literally went back to school to serve my time. And it was very uncomfortable because I did not relate with those kiddos, but I found myself relating. So I started back at school, post-surgery, post-physical therapy, this newly-ish crippled girl. I don't know. I was walking, I guess, at the time.
Like, were you walking normally? Like, did you have a limp? Did you have a cane? Did you walk into this alternative school with a cane?
I remember, so I did walk. I didn't have to use like a walker or anything, but I do remember, seeing friends in Walmart at some point. I saw people that knew me, like either in the band or something, but I remember I was in one of the scooters, and I remember one of the kids asking like, "Are you faking? You really need that?" But me saying like, "Yeah, like I had this like major surgery, like they gutted me from the backside." Like,
so how long were you out of school from surgery to going to said alternative school?
So yeah, I mean,
like recovery time, I guess.
I would say like springtime, like because I had my surgery, like this went on like through the holidays, like from like Thanksgiving to like end of February, mid-March. Because I ended up graduating. So I graduated. I got all my schoolwork done. So I did my alternative school like on one side of the campus of this like alternative school. One side of the campus was for the misbehaving children. And so I met that cusp for the first part. So finally I got to move over to the other side of the room where I got to I got to finish out like any of my schoolwork. So I had teachers from the main school that would then send over and all my assignments, all my work. And so I got all that done. I remember pretty much finishing high school in April. Most kids finish at the end of May, but I pretty much got to sit it out and I went back to work. But it was really important to me to walk across the stage like every other graduating kid. I felt like the first in my immediate family to graduate high school, and I just wanted that experience. I didn't get to do like all the senior activities, like senior brunches and all that junk that they do. I'm not even familiar with what junk they do because I wasn't there. But I didn't get to participate in that stuff, but I did at least get to walk across the stage and get my diploma and like everybody else. So
I think that's kind of all we got today, right? I mean,
yeah.
If you're excited about the content we're creating, please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and find us wherever you get your podcasts.